So it's the start of another week here at the high maintenance hangar. Um, Last week I showed you the brakes that we're getting ready to do. There's a few parts that I need. We've got those on order. Hopefully those will be here this week. We also got some inside information from Everett's Air. A guy by the name of Bob Alexander helped us out with the parts. He also uh, gave us some specific information on how to adjust these springs and these pistons. And so I'm going to get them apart and get everything cleaned up, make sure there's nothing wrong inside. And then we'll put them back together again and get them adjusted. Okay, so I've got these all torn apart. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean them up and get them ready for reassembly. Let me show you a couple of things that I found. So one of the things that I was concerned about is how long these brakes have been sitting here dry. And so that's what I was very concerned about. I got to get that all cleaned out of there. And it's different places and different parts. But I'll get this all cleaned up and we'll put them back together again. All right, here's all the parts ready to go put a piston back together again. Got to replace a couple of O-rings and have some lubricant, and this will be ready to assemble. Hey, I'm here at the hangar, and Doug and I just walked in. Let me turn this around. What are you holding there, Doug?
I'm holding a giant tire.
Oh, cool.
Aero Classic.
Two of them. How beautiful is that? That's stinking awesome. All right. Oh, and that must be the inner tubes. Cool. So all we need now is a nose wheel tube. If anybody has a nose wheel tube for one of these, let me know. All right, so we're getting the start of another day, day two in the research and assembly of these DC6 brakes. Just waiting for Jan to come down and we'll get started assembling these. But I have all the parts ready, all the new seals, the tooling, and we'll see about getting this put together. And then at some point, we'll stick it on the hydraulic mule and we'll do a leak test on it. So stand by. All right, so we had a little bit of a trouble. We didn't have enough strength to hold on to the brake caliper on the bench, so what I've done, let me turn this around. What I've done is I've mounted this backwards so that I can get our tool in there and torque these covers down. They're 125 foot-pounds of torque, and we just didn't have enough muscle to hold it on the bench. So we'll get these torqued down, and then we'll take it back off, and we'll load up the pads and the disc so that we can do a leak check on it. All right, anyway, we'll be back. Okay, so after some initial trying to figure out how to put this together, because it's been 10 years since these brakes came apart for us. Anyway, it's just sitting here. Once it's bolted onto the airplane, everything will line up and cooperate, but still have to torque down these grab nuts to 40 foot-pounds. And we still have to do a leak test. So that's coming up, and we'll see how that works out. So what's going on here, Jan?
All right, so what we have here is one half of a wheel assembly. It has the brake, the disc brake interface locks in here. You can see all the way around here. This is what transfers the energy from the pucks to the brake to the wheel. We just finished putting together one brake caliper unit with 3 pistons in it. Got new pads in it down here. Probably can't see those too well, but they're there.
Yeah, they're just like the ones on the other
And
end.
then we've cleaned off the disc. So this is an initial test fit to see how things are going.
Looks like it's a lot less nasty than when we took these around. When we took these out. When we first took these out, it was evil. So here we'll have our banjo fitting. This is where we'll put hydraulic fluid in. It'll bleed out the other end, and we'll be able to do a leak test and make sure all of this works as advertised. Okay. All right, we'll get this ready to go for a leak test, and we'll be back with more video. Okay, so we're getting ready to pressure test this, make sure we don't have any leaks. First thing we got to do is get the air out of it. And yeah, so go easy on the pumps.
Okay, Nate, it's on you, buddy. Okay, hold on.
Okay, keep going, Nate.
Hang
Watch
on.
this right here, don't let that get down, Nate.
Doug,
Right, because it'll start getting air in it.
can you hold that to the other hand there, son? There you go.
Yep.
Never mind, Doug. You're free to whatever.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Shoot,
Oh,
I moved too fast. Sorry.
ooh.
This thing can suck it pretty
Yes,
quick.
it can.
Blowing the
I
trees
think-
up yet, or?
I think the air is gone.
You getting more fluid?
Out of there.
I don't see any air coming, but I'm getting fluid.
There you go.
Okay. You're up. Okay, Nate, you're done.
Pumping this?
For a little bit, you're done.
Okay.
Stand by. Okay, we'll do that.
She's already tight. You have gauge there? Any pressure on it?
It was moving up, but I think it's
Okay.
gonna come down
We'll
just
go
a
ahead
smidge.
and, okay, I got this one, Nate.
you got
Nate,
that?
sorry.
Okay, ready?
Yep. Whoop. Woo. Can you hold on to that?
This thing's
So-
thirsty.
Our little reservoir doesn't hold a lot of fluid, but Nate's here.
Probably some air in there. Okay, you got building pressure.
Yep.
It's getting harder to push.
That's good. Where are you? How many pounds?
250, 300. He's at 500.
That's good.
Okay.
And I can barely move the
And
handle.
Okay.
I don't see any leaks. But the brake itself looks fantastic.
The brake pads, the brake
Brake,
cylinders.
I'm gonna
yeah,
put this up
pistons.
here so that
that's fine.
if it runs, it's gonna run down off the.
Okay. All right. Well, so with the exception of the coppers leaking on the banjo fitting, this thing looks like it's passing the leak down test. I'm pretty excited about that.
There we go. That's 500 plus already.
Okay, come put your light down here. Yeah, it looks like that dried up too. That's a good thing. Okay. Got a little residual from
Like
the.
it's got a very minor pressure loss. It's very slow. compared to
That's
what
probably
was
going
slower.
back up the line though.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, those pistons are dry. That's all good.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
It's dry here.
Okay, it's Friday morning here at the hangar. Doug and I had just arrived, and I dropped a bunch of videos yesterday about another A-26 Shamrock 2.2 doing a maintenance flight and training flight in Ada, Oklahoma. And I had several questions about our aircraft. One of them was, Happy Home wanted to know if there was an autopilot. And checking with them, there is an autopilot. It isn't the typical World War II autopilot that was basically used for keeping the airplane straight and level during a bomb run. But they've got a more contemporary autopilot installed in an airplane, but it is currently inoperative. So they'll be working on that. The other thing is the HSI that's in the airplane on the left side was kind of leaning over like that. The right side was doing its job correctly, talking to the pilots. Apparently there's some sort of an electrical problem they've been chasing, but it was a very nice VFR day. It wasn't a requirement for flight. So then I had another question about what the controls are in an A-26. So to talk about that, Dave and I, let me turn this around. Dave and I are sitting in the cockpit, and Dave's going to talk about all the goings on inside the cockpit. So Dave, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, this is on the pedestal on the airplane here. We've got, starting at the top left, this is the lever for the emergency brakes. This is an air system with a bottle right behind us here.
Back in behind the fan up here.
It's a nitrogen bottle in there, and you have about 3 shots to slow the airplane down with if you lose brakes with the hydraulic pressure. The next one here is a control lock. You push this lever down, you pull this back. In the meantime, you kind of milk this controls into their locked position. Now they're locked, the throttles are locked, to about 1500 RPM. So this is a pretty nice setup because it won't allow you to put full power on, thereby possibly taking off with the control locks on. To release the control locks, push that button down, it comes forward, everything loosens up. These controls are just like new. Everything is just beautiful in these. These are the high and low pressure blower settings for the engines. Over here's the switches for the oil cooler and the boost pumps, all down the boost pumps down here. Over here's trim,
That's the elevator trim.
elevator trim. Here's the throttles. Now that they're free with the control locks off. This is the friction for the throttles. This is the prop controls for RPM. Control manifold pressure with these and RPM, but on the governing mode. This is mixture controls. They have the different settings for auto lean, full rich. Moving down on our airplane, this is a hydraulic bypass. When you, right now it's in the open, this is the closed position. So that means you have when the engines are running, you'll have hydraulic pressure to all of these systems that require hydraulics. In this case, that's going to be landing gear, it's going to be brakes. When we get the gear up and we're cruising, we'll pull this out and that bypasses so you're not running the pump so hard. You will have a drop in hydraulic pressure, and you'll know that this is out and you can't get the gear down unless you pull the emergency releases.
And there's an emergency release for the nose gear.
And then there's two of them back there.
And there will be two back here when we get the cables back from Matt Jackson.
Moving over, this is the flap switch. We've got a guard in here to protect us so it doesn't get bumped out accidentally. This is a landing gear. Our landing this gear is down and locked with the pins in. We don't like to move this now because it's just a bad habit to get into. We can move it, but we just want to keep this down in the locked position. These are carburetor air inlet for cold to warm the carburetors up. The air inlet temperatures. Here's fuel selection. These are on, off, and you move to aux on these two, left and right. This one is cross feed for fuel. This is rudder trim. This is all works just beautifully. This is aileron trim. So this is roll, and this is emergency hydraulic pressure. In our case, since we don't have bomb day doors, we will probably keep this in this position right now, but we can use this to switch the hydraulic pressure. You can see the cables back here for all of this stuff that for everything we're working here. It gets pretty busy in there. You got trim. All of this is operated by cables. Over here is the ignition switches and the cutoff switch for both engines. And then just switches here mostly for lights. And up here we're going to have our engine shut off and fire bottles next to the feathering buttons. And an annunciator panel we're going to put in here that shows the oil pressure, generators on, off, different systems at a glance to let us know if we've got a problem. On this airplane we've decided we're going to keep the old analog, the old steam gauges in because we want to kind of replicate in the day when this airplane was new how that was. This was a single pilot airplane. This panel wasn't here. This is the only access there was up to the nose for the bombardier, and they could not ride up there for takeoff and landing. Circuit breaker panels. I think that's about it. Bob, you got anything else?
Back in the
jettison for the canopies that we hope we'll never use.
yeah.
These are open and close. This is jettison.
Hang on.
Switches up here for engines,
Open and
generators,
close.
start, so on.
Emergency jettison of the canopies, and then battery switches, generator switches, start switches are all up here. Now, one of the things that was changed when this became a VIP transport Used to be a hydraulic hand pump here. When Onmark modified this, they put it back here, which is really difficult for anybody up here to reach. You hope you never have to use that. The voltage regulators for the generators are down there on the floor. There's a whole bunch of gizmos going on behind the pilot seat. All of the controls run through here. The hydraulics are all in there. The hydraulic system is on a pallet. That can be removed in as one piece and brought down to the floor. Now, that fan there is not Douglas. That was a thing that was installed by Onmark. We modified it a little bit. It made it a little cleaner. And to that end, it's looking pretty good in here. Now, we still have a bunch of wires to tie up, but the Sparkies aren't done configuring the airplane. When they are all done, then this will all get tied together, kind of like that bundle back there. It'll all be neat and clean. We still have a lot of work to do.
Thing, Bob, the original configuration for this airplane in the early 40s, this control column was not here. The rudder pedals down below were not here. This is on the right side. Left side is as you see it here. But when Onmark took it, they turned this into a two-pilot airplane. And from the beginning, this airplane should have been two-pilot. It's too complicated for a 20-year-old kid to get in here and go fly it. But it's an amazing airplane.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Thank you for that tutorial, and let's get to work. We got things to do.
Yeah, we got a lot to do.